The Trump administration is taking a surprising step back in its tech battle with China, reversing a key rule that restricted software sales used to design semiconductors. The shift now hinting at a cooling of tensions, a tactical pause that may actually reflect quiet diplomacy or an attempt to de-escalate the chip war. For more, let's head to Miami. We're joined by Brad Gastwirth from Unearthing Opportunities. Good to see you, my friend. Talk to us about why the US decided to walk back the May 23 EDA export rule.
Yeah, it's a really good question, Aaron. And if you look at the timing, this is only a month and a half, from when they actually put that restriction in place back on May 23rd. So it's interesting that now all of a sudden we have that reversal. I very much believe it's because of the semiconductor issues. China has such a big stronghold on rare earth minerals. Those go into every semiconductor made. So for us to build them, we need that raw material. And I think having these lighter restrictions on the EDA side is just showing some good, some goodwill on our side.
There's so much happening at the moment, right? So you've still got the China trade tensions, you've got the Vietnam trade deal that President Trump has announced as well. You've got the breakdown in relations between Trump and Elon Musk too. How does that all play into the relationship with China over chips?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the latter, the Musk relationship has much to do with the Chinese, what's going on the tariffs and what's going on with U.S. China. But if you look at, there's so many moving parts on a macro front. On the tariff side, we're hearing, those deals. But the other thing that's interesting is, we know that President Trump pays attention very closely to the market. And the market has been responding incredibly well, making new highs. And, after they did have that pause initially with China, the market had a significant rally. So I think he certainly took his lesson from that. I think he's trying to be a little bit more casual with instead of being more aggressive. And I think it's going to play out. So ultimately, I think he realizes that there's got to be a little bit softer tone with China for the markets to continue to rally. And I think that's the reason for all of this.
Yeah, so Brad, do you think it's, a sign that the US-China tech war is now easing? Or is this just one of those moments in time where things can change pretty quickly?
It's probably the latter. I think things could change rather quickly. I mean, just look at the relationship to your earlier point with Musk and Trump. So I wouldn't be surprised if things could escalate at any point. That being said, yeah, I mean, I do think right now it does feel like he wants to do and be a little bit more, less aggressive with China, which is a change. That's, clearly a change from his prior stance. So it's a wait and see to that latter comment. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at any point for aggression from either side. But, right now, this is certainly a positive catalyst for the markets overall. The markets have, honestly have really disregarded a lot of this macro news anyways. But this is a positive. If there's less escalation, this is good for all companies.
It's interesting though, you talk about the markets and the temporary pause. Do you think markets are starting to get used to the shocks?
I mean, it's been happening now for how many years,
Yeah.
right? We, look at this initial U.S.-China battle and the discussion. I mean, we're several years away from that, and that was a pretty dramatic thing, and it didn't rattle the markets. Then you had Russia and Ukraine in the beginning of that escalation. Now we're a couple of years in, that never really rattled. Then you had, Israel, Iran, and U.S. bombing Iran, and that didn't derail the market. The market's telling us that this, the AI theme is here to stay. Financials are getting better. There's a lot of reasons to be bullish, and the market wants to go higher.
There's a lot that China and the United States don't agree on. Obviously, right throughout the Pacific, China's rise militarily throughout the Pacific, the threat of what they may do with Taiwan as well. Talk to us about rare earth minerals, and obviously we talk about that when it comes to chips and a lot of tech in that region as well. What role do rare earth minerals now play in a diplomatic shift like this one?
Yeah, I think it plays everything, quite honestly. And I think that's the reason why we had this de-escalation and the reversal from that May 23rd EDA, restriction. I really believe it's because of rare earth minerals. You need rare earth to make semiconductors. And that's the one thing that China has 70% market share globally. So if they wanted to restrict it, they could completely stop our semiconductors being made, and I 100% believe that's why the EDA restriction was reversed.
That's pretty good leverage from China's side, right? So the US slapping massive tariffs on it. Finally, Scott Bessent and co get together with the Chinese, come up with some temporary pause at least, which gives everybody hope. Now there's this one as well. Does this buy the US time to look to other countries? We know that they've been putting pressure on President Zelensky about rare earth minerals as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head here, Aaron. I think they are going to do that. Even if you recall, I think it was like a few weeks ago, China talked about how they have the upper hand in the U.S.-China trade area. So, and I think it's because of the rare earth minerals they made those comments. But ultimately, I mean, President Trump has certainly been very aggressive to a lot of our neighbors in terms of tariffs, and maybe he's trying to get more money from some of those older allies, and now trying to make deals where he can get these rare earths to get these semiconductors built. But ultimately, the theme of AI is the most important thing for the next decade, to have the components to be built. And if you can't do that, you slow down our development. And I don't think he's going to want to be known to be the president that screwed that up. So yeah. I think there's going to be some deal, and I think it'll be more likely that it's a positive one.
Yeah, Jensen Huang and co will be sitting in the middle wondering where exactly all of this ends, particularly at a time where the US and China are locked in that AI battle for supremacy too, and will continue to do so. Brad Gastwirth there in Miami. Appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thank you.